You know that feeling you get when you listen to an Elton John song? That epic, larger-than-life sound? Well, it's not just his voice or Bernie Taupin's amazing lyrics. The secret? It's in the harmony. We're going to break down his genius and show you how he literally uses chords to tell a story. And it really all comes down to one big idea. And this is it. This is the whole thing right here. He tells stories in his chord progressions. Think about that for a second. His chords aren't just there to support the melody, like in a lot of pop music. No, they are the story. They've got their own plot, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, so what does that actually mean, a story in the chords? Well, think about a ton of pop songs you hear today, right? You get that classic four-chord loop, and it just goes around and around and around. It's kind of static. Elton's music, it's the complete opposite. His chords go somewhere. They're on a journey, and they're taking you right along with them. All right, so how does he pull this off? Here's our game plan. First, we'll look at how he thinks of harmony as a kind of storyboard for the lyrics. Then we'll get into his basic building blocks, the chords he loves. After that, we dive into his signature sounds, that big Broadway feel and the intense operatic drama. And we'll even uncover his secret weapon for making it all flow seamlessly. Then we'll wrap it all up with the big idea you can take away. So it all begins with that legendary partnership, right? Bernie Taupin gives him a full set of lyrics, and Elton, get this, often in just a matter of minutes, starts scribbling chords right above the words. He's not just thinking about a catchy tune, he's literally creating what you could call a storyboard of musical sounds. Every single chord is chosen to match the feeling of that exact line. Okay, so before we can really appreciate the big, grand theatrical stuff, we gotta learn his basic vocabulary. You know, to really get the magic, you have to speak the language. And for Elton John, that language is, without a doubt, the language of the piano. A huge part of his sound comes down to these 5 specific major chords, the ones that use a lot of the black keys. Why those? Simple. They just feel good to play on a piano. The way these flat keys are laid out fits your hand perfectly. It lets him get that super rich, full, soulful sound that you know is him the second you hear it. This is like the bedrock of his musical language. All right, let's get into the good stuff. His first big move. A lot of the time, Elton sounds like he's writing for a Broadway stage, right? He gets this huge, bright, totally expansive sound. And yeah, he's borrowing directly from the world of musical theater to do it. So here's the secret sauce. In any key, there's a bunch of chords that you expect to hear. Some of them are minor chords, which can sound kind of sad or serious. Well, what Elton does is he takes those expected minor chords and he swaps them out for bright, shiny, major chords instead. And that one little change instantly injects this shot of optimism and brightness into the music. Let me show you a perfect example. You'll hear it immediately. Okay, think about the chorus of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. The song's in the key of F major. Now, when he sings So Goodbye, musically, we're expecting to hear an A minor chord. But nope, Elton hits us with an A major. He does the exact same thing on Yellow Brick Road. It should be a G minor, but he plays a G major. See? It's such a simple switch, but that's what gives the whole section that lift, that unmistakable theatrical shine. So we've got the bright, happy Broadway sound down, but what about when things get serious? What about the drama? For those big, heavy moments, Elton reaches into a different theatrical bag of tricks, this time from opera. He does it with something I can only call a musical interruption. He throws in this one specific, totally unexpected chord that just stops everything. It slams on the brakes, breaks the musical flow, and it makes you sit up and listen. It's pure drama written in the chords. Okay, the technical term for this sucker is the flattened 6th chord. But what you really need to know is that it's basically the wrong chord for the key. It doesn't belong. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. In Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, he just drops this dark, heavy D-flat major chord, and it feels like it comes out of left field. That's a move straight out of Puccini, straight out of opera. It's a musical signal that says, pay attention, this is important. Okay, so we've got brightness, and we've got drama. But the real genius is how he stitches it all together so it feels like one seamless story, right? How does it all flow? Well, the secret lies in a really cool tool called the slash chord. Now, slash chord sounds super technical, but I promise it's not. All it means is that your right hand is playing one chord, but your left hand, down in the bass, is playing a different note. The magic of this is that the bass line doesn't have to jump around awkwardly. It can just smoothly walk from one note to the next. It's what creates that gorgeous, flowing feeling. And this is where it gets really cool. Elton uses this trick in two genius ways. First, he can make the bass line move, creating this walking melody that literally pulls the story forward. But he can also do the exact opposite. He can have the bass hold on to one single note, like an anchor, while the chords change over the top. That can build tension or just make a section feel really solid and grounded. I mean, just go listen to the piano intro of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road again. You'll hear it instantly. The bass line doesn't leap around, it just walks. Step by step, it descends down the scale. And that's all done with slash chords. That's how he gets that super satisfying flowing movement that just screams Elton John.
So we've looked at the Broadway feel, the operatic drama, these clever slash chords. When you put it all together, what's the big lesson here? What's the real Elton John takeaway?
It all comes back to this. Being a great musician isn't like memorizing a dictionary, just knowing a ton of fancy chords. That's not the point. True artistry, the kind Elton has, is about being fluent. It's about using the chords you know to tell a story, making them connect in a way that feels meaningful. And hey, for any of you out there who are learning an instrument, there's a real pearl of wisdom in all this. If you want to get that fluency, to make those chords flow like a story, you have to practice slowly. I know, it sounds backwards, right? But practicing slow is the real secret to eventually being able to make your instrument truly speak. Because in the end, that's what Elton John's music teaches us. Chords aren't just chords. They're a language, a tool for telling stories. So the real question isn't, how many chords do you know? It's, what story are your chords going to tell?